The WHO could gain powers to impose lockdown on the UK. That goes for any country. They just said the UK because this is from a paper from the UK. This goes for any country, and let me tell you, they're not that they could gain. They have already gained these powers, which is the spoiler alert I'm going to tell you at the end.
Oh, great!
They have already gained these powers. Okay, hey, hold on. That's a spoiler alert.
Oh, there's things for it too.
It says, "Oh, okay." The WHO could gain powers to impose lockdowns on the UK. MPs, meaning members of parliament, fear new treaty is designed to increase the WHO's powers and would enable it to enforce border closures and vaccine passports. Wow. Well, so Germany has finally conquered Britain because Germany runs the WHO. They're the biggest contributor to the WHO. And I believe it was Winston Churchill, Kurt, who once said, "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets, but mostly we shall lock down immediately when ordered to by Klaus Schwab." I think that's what they said. So this is real. So get this again. I already gave you a spoiler alert. So if you sign on to the treaty of the WHO, which we are, member states would be obliged to follow the agency's instructions when responding to pandemics, including by introducing vaccine passports, border closures, and quarantine measures under a draft update to its regulations. So the WHO, there's a treaty, we all are a part of it. They have their international health regulations, the IHRs, and they updated them last year, I think 12 months ago. And it includes all this. So now the WHO, an unelected body, is going to be ruling over every part of your life.
Do you think they'd be able to push it here the way they are definitely going to push it in those countries, just because this is a more not having healthcare, also largely armed populace that's probably sick of that? I know everybody rolled over for it, but when I see them trying to promote the new, I was like, "Oh, there's a new deadly virus that's been out for a while." So that means they're trying to promote it. I don't know how they'd be able to promote it here the way they did, like in Australia. You know, they locked everybody down.
Yeah, Kurt, they got everybody to go along with it here, too.
I don't know.
They got everybody to hate us, or hate me, at least, for telling the truth about the vaccine.
I was vaccinated, and they still hated me.
I got vaccinated, they still hate me. So, look at that. So, member states, so the United States would be obliged to follow the agency's instructions when it comes to anything to do with pandemics, including vaccine passports, border crossings, and quarantine measures. Yeah, border closures and quarantine measures.
Oh, wow. Now it's okay to close the border, huh?
I do declare. I feel obliged to follow the instructions of the agency, though I fear I may faint dead away as my booster has given me the vapors.
They probably gave him a lot of fainting spells back then.
Lot. The treaty was first proposed by world leaders, including... So this is what the WHO treaty is supposed to do. It's supposed to help countries coordinate with data and information during pandemics. So in 2021, the treaty was proposed by... including Boris Johnson, during the pandemic, and was originally designed to improve alert systems, data sharing, and production of vaccines to foster an all of government and all of society approach. You know, like fascism.
Well, they got caught having a cheese party or something?
Yes. But among the 300 proposed amendments to the international health rules are changes to make the WHO's advice binding. That means member states are going to be obliged the hard way. Binding.
And so you had obliged me, but now I am bound.
Now you are bound. And introduce a new requirement for countries to recognize it as the global authority on public health.
Oh, do they have a flag I can salute?
Jesus Christ.
Oh, the global authority.
The global authority.
Why don't you just make Bible crazies go nuts? I mean, just fulfill everything that
they've been saying since 1992.
I don't even know how to make fun of them now because you're doing it.
Because they're doing it. Everything that they've been saying, this one world government is coming. I used to think those people were nuts.
The guy who worked at the supermarket, the bodybuilder who worked in the meat department, that talked to me about Jesus every day because I'm Jehovah's Witness and they're like enemies. Yeah. And he said nonsense things. These are the things he said would happen.
And it's happening. So the plan would require member countries to recognize the WHO as the guidance and coordinating authority of international public health response and undertake to follow the WHO's recommendations in their international public health response. Okay, so the member countries will be required to recognize the WHO as the guiding authority, kind of like how the WHO has to do with Bill Gates.
It goes from who, Bill Gates, to the who, to you, to God's ears.
And so here's our friend Dr. So let me just tell you, these recommendations have already been adopted. So what happens when they passed it 12 months ago is you have member countries have 18 months to then say, I'm not going to, we reject it.
Wait, this sounds like how they trick you to like free trial with your credit card.
That's exactly right.
Are you kidding?
This is just exactly right. And so what you don't opt into this. You have to opt out of this. So we have not opted out of this. Nobody has opted out. In fact, there's no news stories about it. This is the first one we saw. And it's from frickin' UK. Nobody's talking about this. There's only 6 months left for the United States representative to the WHO, who isn't elected, by the way. That person has to then reject it on behalf of the United States.
Oh, I can't wait.
And if and you think that person who's the United States representative to the WHO isn't 100% corrupted and bought by Big Pharma and Wall Street, you're a chump. So now we're letting unelected people completely run your life. Completely. And there's, again, it's 6 months. In 6 months, these go into full effect. We only have 6 months to opt out of this, and nobody's talking about it. I don't even know who the person is who's our representative from the United States.
This could be with us? I thought it was just England.
No, I said you can substitute any country's name.
I thought you were joking.
No.
So they got... Wow.
That's why I'm telling you this is a big deal. It's not just the UK. It's every country who's a member of the WHO treaty, and we are.
Well, I can't wait for 6 months from now when Breaking Points gets to this one.
So that's the big spoiler alert. So what? Yeah, I'm sure the Breaking Points will get around
6 months
to...
hey, this is kind of strange.
Maybe. So, but it still saved millions of lives. So here's what Dr. John Campbell has to say about this.
Debate vaccines for a long time, but we're not going to. To me, the WHO would have power to counter misinformation.
So now the WHO has the power to declare what is the truth. Because we're not allowed to go against what the WHO says about health, and about the COVID, and who runs the WHO? It's Bill Gates. And so Bill Gates is dictating to what I can say on YouTube. And so he's making the same point. Now they're going to be the people who decide what is misinformation and what isn't. And who ultimately is going to do that? Bill Gates. And so this is what he's saying.
Now let's be quite clear about this. Information and misinformation would be defined by the World Health Organization. I think that's the most Orwellian, terrifying bit to me of this. If I put forward good science, good scientific argument based on scientific underpinnings, based by research, disinformation. If the World Health Organization says it is. They define information and disinformation. Terrifying idea. Quite an Orwellian idea. Science proceeds on a dialectic. So Jones says this, Bert says this. They have an argument about it and they come to some sort of synthesis. That's the way science progresses. Sweep all that away. We know best.
Sweep all that away. They do best. And that's not called trusting the science. That's called blind faith in bureaucrats.
Enforced border closures, quarantine measures, lockdowns, whatever they need, vaccine passports. You can only travel if you're allowed to. How far would this extend? Work? People unable to and earn a living? The ramifications are incredible. Conservative MPs have written to ministers. The ambition is evident for the World Health Organization to transform from an advisory organisation to a controlling international authority.
So members of the Parliament in the UK wrote to the health ministers and said this. It's obvious that the WHO wants to go from an advisory organization to a controlling international authority, of course.
Not my words, the members of Parliament, controlling international authority. If that's what you want, good for you. Urge the Foreign Office to block powers that appear to intrude materially into the UK's ability to make its own rules and control its own budgets. But as I say, substitute your country.
Yeah, so that goes... It appears to intrude materially into the United States' ability to make its own rules and control its own budgets.
I thought, like, yeah, that happens in the UK, but the United States is secretly in charge of the whole thing, like NATO.
No, Bill Gates is secretly in charge
Oh,
of the whole
great.
thing.
The United Kingdom, because this will apply to anyone who signs up for this new treaty. It'll be universal. Changes to make the WHO advice binding. In other words, as I understand this, this would have the power of the state behind it. So I get lots of people saying, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. If it's got the power of the state behind it, the state can put you in prison if you don't do it. It can fine you. It can take all sorts of measures against you.
Yeah,
States
you
have
guys don't
power.
have guns.
If it's binding, no matter how much you don't want it to be, it can be forced on you. That's the whole point. It has the power of the individual states to enforce its will. Part of post-pandemic plans, WHO international health regulations. Now, this idea was first proposed in 2021 by World League.
So I already told you that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember that story.
So that's it. So I guess they do own the science, Kurt.
That's what that lady. We own the science.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they literally bought the science.
And so, in 6 months, if whoever the representative to the WHO from the United States doesn't reject those updates to the international health regulations, then we're stuck with them.
Look for a Ryan Grimm deep dive on it in 6 months or so.
Yeah. When it's too late to do anything about it, I'm sure the other YouTube shows will come around to.
I'm still shocked by the old trick of a subscription that you're tricked into forever.
Yeah.
Like some Eastern European web
It's like
scam.
the Colombian Records and Tape Club when I was a kid.
That's how they're making world-binding laws now.
Yeah. And so here's what they should have done. They should have taken and had a couple of conferences and taken maybe a year or two and decided what they did wrong during the pandemic and then to make sure they never did that stuff again. They didn't do any of that.
No, they did a great job.
They're not
wrong.
They're not doing any of it. They don't care what they got wrong. They don't care how to make it better. They don't care where they fell down. They don't care where they killed people, how they made things worse.
It's not sustainable, Jimmy.
They're not doing an overhaul or an overlook of any of it. Nothing. They just put the pedal to the metal and let's get on with this authoritarian garbage.
Yeah.
And the WHO will be in charge and you will own nothing and you will be happy.
We got to I think 2030, this big day that they're all excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to go, it's going to go very Iraq invasion like ultimately, because the bottom line is, even with all that power and the ability to do whatever the hell they want to anybody anytime, they suck at it. They cock it up all the time.
Yes.
People won't even listen to you talk sense to them. But the stuff happens to them, and then they go, "Hey," and it's inevitable.
Hey, everybody, check out my new stand-up special, COVID Lives Are Funny, only $10. And come see us live in Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Baltimore, San Francisco, Huntington Beach, and more. Pottstown, even. Go to jimmydore.com for a list of all of our things and see you there.